All right, hello and welcome to our second Wrestling to the Max Smackdown live review. And joining me here is the dude that just, anytime I need somebody to do something that's not one of these the regular episodes, man, I know I can count on Paul Leeser. How you doing?
Good, man. How you doing, Sean?
Just try, I'll be glad you get a little break after on Wednesday.
Yeah.
And joining us, you see him right here on if you're watching the video podcast version, Mr. Brandon Biskobing. It's been a while, man. How you doing?
Yeah, I haven't been on in a while. I've been busy doing other things and whatnot.
How's the baseball thing?
Well, it's over now, but it was good. It was fun. Kept me busy.
Hey, always good to stay busy and have some fun things to do. But, we got to get to this SmackDown that just happened. Overall, guys, I thought much better SmackDown than the first one they debuted with. I know they've kind of done this thing with them before where they have happened before the actual, intro. But do you like this Shane and Daniel Bryan sort of doing something backstage before they sort of start the show?
Yeah, I mean, I like it. I think it kind of gives them the opportunity of, without them having to do like what they did back with Stephanie when it was the authority of them coming out into the ring and doing their whole big spiel and everything. It gives them an opportunity to kind of set the tone for the show while at the same time keeping it pretty short, pretty brief, and just get to the point.
Yeah, that's what I enjoyed about this a lot too, was the speed, the pace, the ability to very easily run into different things very quickly. Made it feel fresh, it made it feel very different, it made it go by faster. And one, with you losing an hour from Raw to this and from everything else that you have going on SmackDown, it very much helps differentiate it, which is always important, and I would be okay with seeing this more often.
Yeah, and one other thing with what Paul just said right there, with it allowing them to get more things done very quickly. You thinking about it on more of a sports athletic type basis, you'd have people going in to talk to the GM in their office. They wouldn't be out on the field talking to the players or whatnot. It would be in their office, and it makes more sense for that sort of thing to happen here as well.
Yeah, I appreciate that too about them. Like, the other interactions that they have with the talent is not in the ring or whatever, except for when Shane has to come out at one point because he pretty much has to. But I do appreciate that. It sort of always seems like they're on their game. It's in a backstage area too. It's not always in an office, so you never know where you're going to see the general manager or the commissioner, and it makes it sort of feel different, which is always a plus for the show feeling different. One thing I'll say though, again, just they need to figure out something with JBL just running over Mauro Ranallo at times again. Just I get that's sort of what JBL does, but man, it sort of takes you out of enjoying Mauro at times.
Well, I think that's why JBL, I know they're not going to change it now, but JBL probably worked a lot better being on Raw with Cole than he does stepping over Ranallo's feet all the time. I think Ranallo, and I know Jerry Lawler's kind of being put on the sideline now because of his age and all of that, but I mean, they had a pretty decent chemistry going for the time that they did. So, I mean, maybe you'll see someone come into that spot instead of JBL maybe move over Corey Graves or someone into that role, switch Graves and JBL.
I agree. I mean, the announced team on SmackDown is very different from the one they have on Raw, simply because none of these guys have worked together before, and they're very different. Morrow is very much focused on calling the match. He's calling moves. He's calling everything. He's very much based in history. You have JBL, who's doing whatever Vince tells him to do. I'm assuming, and then you have David Otunga, who sort of feels very tacked on, kind of like tripping his way through every show, trying to figure out how to do the call and where his part is and all this.
I don't even remember hearing. I mean, maybe I just wasn't paying attention, but I don't really even remember hearing David Otunga at all this SmackDown.
He does a lot like
JBL's so loud.
That's true.
He did a lot of the cutaways whenever they're about to go to commercial too. It's usually him doing the setup for that. But yeah, whenever it comes to calling a match or anything, he's hardly there. And that's, they're going to learn and figure out how to work with each other. But ultimately, you have three very different pieces of a puzzle that may not fit together ever. So that's something they're going to have to figure out. But I loved Morrow this episode. He was all about alliteration, which I'm a big fan of. So
Can I just bring up one thing about the whole opening thing with them talking? What was up with Daniel Bryan? Just like, he just did not seem like he was on his game tonight.
Yeah, I don't. Apollo Creed is not a wrestler. Not a wrestler.
Well, he did cover himself on the Smack Talk thing.
Yeah.
But then during Smack Talk, he seemed like he almost fell back on his seat at one moment.
Yeah, I mean, he is. What I do like about that SmackDown thing, though, is it lets Daniel Bryan sort of kind of lead you with his thoughts through the show as the general manager, and I like that sort of giving his point of view as the authority figure in a good way, not in a condescending way of telling you what he thinks about the talent that happened on, that were on the show. I think that feels so fresh.
Yeah, I agree with that. I loved what he said about the whole thing between AJ and Cena on Smack Talk. How he kind of shot on Cena a bit there, related to how, not everyone can be the golden boy who was given his WWE chance right away. Like, some of us have to go into the indies, and we like it that way.
Yeah, I mean, he feels very much like he does on the Cruiserweight Classic whenever he's calling it with Morrow. It's Daniel Bryan's personality, and yeah, he has that slant now as the general manager, but there's also still that wrestler feeling that he gives off every time he's having a conversation with Renee. And I mean, there's still that times where he feels very awkward, because I still don't know if he's accustomed to the role that he's stepped up into yet, but it's something that he'll grow into very quickly, I'm sure.
Well, I think we saw that tonight with the opening segment with him screwing up on Cruz's name and whatnot, but I think that's something that you learn through repetition and you learn through getting your reps in. I think after a while he'll be fine when it comes to that.
I'm sure that happens with everybody. So it is what it is. Getting into the actual show itself, they started off really strong, addressing the main event sort of situation with SmackDown and the title. And Dean and Dolph have a terrific promo segment here, with Dean basically calling out Dolph about he cares about everything but actually being a winner, and also just. He's all about, I want to steal the show, I want to do all this, and Dean's like, dude, I'm a winner, you're not. And I like the fact that, Dean can be a little bit hard on Dolph, and it doesn't have to be all about pandering to the crowd and everything else, and comes off very genuine, very real from Dean. And then Bray comes out, Bray Wyatt, and he attacks Ziggler, and he wants to show that he is the guy. For SmackDown to be the guy that should be facing Dean instead of Ziggler, while Dolph is sort of laid out there. and later you have Ziggler sort of complaining about it, but he wants to prove himself, so he wants the match to be made. And they also have a cool little segment with Bryan and Dolph later saying, you know what, I know what you've been through. All you need to do is go out there and prove to everybody that you are the guy that should be there. So, I mean, what did you guys think? I thought overall this made both guys look good, and Dean was even there on commentary for the main event. And you had the best match of the show, of course, the main event between Dolph and Bray as well. Really weird, though, what they did with Bray. I thought they were kind of going into a different direction with him, and then you kind of just have Rowan come out, and it seems like we're going back to the Wyatt family thing, but just two of them. Do you like that with Bray? And I never felt Ziggler was going to lose his spot, but did you think that maybe they go in a different direction and pick Bray?
I mean, I was curious. I mean, I wasn't sure, especially with how Dean was talking, and maybe him losing it could give him the onus to start acting a little more aggressive and focusing on the title, and maybe a heel turn there. But I like the fact that they kept it with Ziggler, and I've said ever since. I've been saying for a while, and especially now with the brand split, that despite the fact that, yes, more people are going to get more opportunities, they can't just throw something at Bray Wyatt. They really have to fix the damage they've made to make him a more legitimate threat. So I'm glad that they did not give it to him, because it just wouldn't feel real. But, I mean, I like the concept, I like the idea of it, and I think they did it correctly.
I loved that opening promo. The energy from both guys, the way they played off each other, Dolph and Dean really put on something memorable, I feel like. Because you see the point come across with Dolph so easily, and it's one of those moments where you're like, man, this guy really does still have everything that made him to being somebody they went with for a long time, those few years ago whenever he cashed in the Money in the Bank. And then, maybe for the grace of God and a concussion, he might actually be one of these big stars that we're talking about now. And you have Dean working the subtle heel thing, sort of just trying to get in Dolph's head, telling him, hey man, you're all this other stuff. You're just not better than me, and you're not a winner, and you're not all these other things. And I absolutely loved it. And for maybe about 5 minutes in that Bray Wyatt Dolph Ziggler match, I thought they might do the switch, simply because you're dealing with two guys who WWE hasn't done a whole ton with, and in trying to build contenders, build stars, build people and characters that people can get behind on SmackDown, maybe you trade the number one contendership for a while. Maybe you have people stake different claims against Dean. Maybe you have all this other stuff going on, until you get to maybe like the closing 7-8 minutes of that match, where it's like, okay, it's pretty cool and clear that they're going to go with Dolph here. I believed it, and that's great. I think I loved everything they did with Dolph and Dean, smashly Dolph was money tonight.
Well, I mean, that's one thing that I liked about this whole show, and then Smacking Talk, or Smack Talk, that they're using those behind-the-scenes stuff, that stuff about people not getting pushes and all of that, between Ziggler using it and AJ using it. It seems like they're using that a lot more on SmackDown now, and I think it will help the show and help give it that natural feel, and give the fans a reason to get behind certain guys.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, too, with this, is that I like what Paul said, that they could possibly not necessarily have a whole... their thing with Dolph and Dean doesn't necessarily have to go past this month. You can have whatever it is, whether you have Dolph Dean chases, or you have Dolph lose, and automatically someone steps up again to sort of establish that, okay, we've got different guys going for the title here. I was surprised at the way that the crowd sort of were really behind Bray. when he made this attack on Dolph. And either one of you think that maybe there was some talk of a double turn going on in the thread there for our group, and there's been some whispers about maybe Dolph turning and all this to make him a heel. And it seems like they're going this different way with this, that they're really want to get people behind Ziggler, which is probably a better idea. But do you think maybe at some point we could see Bray just be a face, but you don't have to say that he is?
Well, I mean, when it comes to WWE in general, with a few exceptions, for the most part, I think that whole concept of face heel is not completely gone, but the fans pretty much just decide, hey, I like this guy better than I like the other guy, no matter what the storylines are telling you. I mean, from the get-go, despite the fact that Bray has been portrayed as a heel from day one, the fans have always gotten behind him, and they've always liked what he's been doing. So he's always been that guy that no matter what you do with him, the fans may boo certain things that he does, but they're not going to completely go against him. And one thing related to that and related to what you guys were talking about with, switching up the number one contenderships and whatnot, would you see potentially Dean, especially with the way he's portrayed as being, the lunatic and being willing to take on anyone at any time, could you see him potentially doing like a WWE Championship Open Challenge type thing?
Maybe. I think it's more... I don't want to say never, but, I think it's more based around what SmackDown needs to do and what they're going to do with Dean. From the looks of it, is Dean is the anti-hero who can sort of play both ways and is just looking to stay and continue to prove that he's the best. Whether it's an open challenge or not, I don't know if that's going to matter so much for him, and whether that's something he's going to go out and actively try to do. I could see him just, like we had with this last pay-per-view at Battleground, where both Seth and Roman were like, we want a title match. He's like, all right, I'll take you both on. I could see that happening right now with Bray. Like, if they want to add Bray to that match, I could see that happening. Just because Dean is, that's something they've established with him, and that's something I think they want to continue pushing. So, I mean, absolutely. I absolutely could see that.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good thing if they can do that, because, again, you need to establish as many people you possibly can, because not only for this show on SmackDown, you need it for the house shows, you need it for everything else that's going on with SmackDown, of being able to get people in the door to watch these shows aside from just the TV show itself. So we move on from what was pretty much your main event angle for the show, and I did appreciate that they carried this throughout the show. It's always much more interesting when you have a show where you have a storyline and it goes throughout instead of just having different segments that make up your show. So I always find that much more interesting. Another interesting thing, too, was how they addressed the women on SmackDown here as opposed to how they're doing it on Raw. Two supposed to be matches, one with Eva Marie once again with that ridiculous voiceover entrance, faking an injury, pulling a Kevin Nash, maybe tearing their quad there, and going just skipping out on the match with Becky Lynch. And then later, due to a interview segment with Carmella where Natalya basically kind of interrupted the interview because she wanted to be the one interviewed, and was all about, hey, I'm royalty here, you need to be sitting here. I don't like the fact that you're kind of using the same angle that you're using with Charlotte, with Natalya. They could have made her use a little bit different choice of words there, but maybe that's probably just something that I'm only going to catch. But, yeah, then you have another match that just kind of doesn't happen here between Carmella and Natalya either. Is this a little bit weird that they're not sort of showcasing the women, or do you like the fact that they're doing a bit more story with the women instead of just having them do matches?
Well, I mean, it's definitely better that they're actually giving them storylines and whatnot and actually having them do something instead of just throwing together a random match. I think they're also doing this so as not to overshow them in the ring until they decide to bring a new title in, because as they've been saying that they're going to make a new women's title on SmackDown. So I think they're waiting and just kind of using these segments just to give them some airtime without actually having them do anything in ring until they create the title.
I think it's much more about trying to establish characters, something that you've already have with a lot of the girls on Raw and a lot of what you don't have on SmackDown. Not only in just the women's division, but up and down the roster is you don't have a lot of people who they've established or have clear-cut characters, and you'll see that problem in the Intercontinental title number one contendership match, when we'll talk about later. But for the women especially, a lot of them are new, like Carmella, like an Eva Marie, like Alexa Bliss, girls who the main roster fans aren't really accommodated to or accumulated or whatever the word is here. And it's a great, you have a pretty good idea in just 2 weeks of what Eve is about. She's about the presentation. She's about being the best show person. And then, maybe she doesn't want to wrestle. And that works because whenever she faked the injury, I was like, thank God I don't got to watch that match. That was going to be awful. And then, Carmella's not necessarily there, but there's a feud there. You learn something about Natty. You learn something about Carmella. And they're building characters. And that's what I really like about this. Yeah, maybe it sucks that they're not being able to wrestle right now. But we'll get to that. Right now, what's important is establishing characters, establishing position, establishing order, as it were.
Yeah, that's the thing too. Like even Marie did this sort of in NXT, and that's kind of when Nia Jax showed up too. So, you can do this with Marie. It's going to get more heat on her than she already has, which is not a bad thing for Marie. Getting her more hate is never a wrong thing with Miss Allred everything. So, I don't have a problem necessarily with Eva Marie, and just like you said, that way you don't really have to showcase this. She can't wrestle well either.
Right.
That saves her from that as well. I mean, I do agree with you. I like the fact that Natty's going to show a bit more personality. Carmella also has a lot to learn as far as in the wrestling department, but she might be one that is works better with getting to have some of these matches, but they'll come in time. I do agree with you. It is about necessarily you need to establish everyone because you have so many people that you don't know. And the one thing I did really like is, did you guys notice a little side thing that showed all of their height and weight and all that kind of stuff every time they came out? Very sports feel to that.
Yeah, I like that they changed that. They wasn't just the normal nameplate underneath them when they came out. They had their height and weight and basically a bio next to them. Yeah, I like that feel to it. It changes things up. It makes things different. Some of the new camera angles feel nice too, like the lower down camera angle that they've got now. Different feel, just it's working, it seems.
Yeah, and some of them had debut dates, some of them had title runs, some of them had a bunch of other little things in there. It's something that really helps you establish what these guys are. Apollo Crews and Kalisto had their debut dates, which were earlier this year, and as for Kalisto, it's been barely or just a little over a year, which is just ridiculously impressive for how far they've both come. So yeah, I mean, it's pretty cool. Pretty cool.
I mean, you mentioned the Intercontinental Championship triple threat match, which they had talked about. That's sort of the thing that got established at the beginning of the show with that backstage segment with Shane and Daniel Bryan just walking through. Was the Miz was upset about how he was not treated like an Intercontinental Champion. You wouldn't treat Jason Bourne this way. He wanted to be, he should be treated like the A-list he is, and so you get to find out who's going to be the number one contender with Baron Corbin, Apollo Crews, and Kalisto. I thought this was pretty good. Something again, they still need to figure out the commercials with this show, making sure you don't take away the match when you go to commercial, and that kind of suffered a bit here.
Well, I wish they would keep what they did for the first commercial break during the draft and have the picture-in-picture, but I'm assuming like the advertisers got annoyed at that. But I mean, I feel like that would be the best way to do it, or the only other way I could think of is do what they did when the app first came out, which is put the match on the app during the commercial breaks.
I like that personally too, but if they figure out how to make a commercial break work within a 2-hour time frame, that's what I'm after here.
Yeah, me too. I mean, you can make it work. You've done it before. There's ways to cut it before. We don't necessarily have to see everybody's entrance either. So there's that as well.
Well, they've been doing that with Raw, especially with all these jobbers coming in.
They did it tonight with the Vaudevillains too.
Yeah, that's a different story. I don't want to get into that.
Actually, that's a good idea because the showcase was supposed to be on the Alpha, American Alpha.
Right.
So,
yeah. But the Vaudevillains are just being pretty much used as jobbers now, which I'm annoyed at.
Well, they could be jobbers for this. I mean, the thing with WWE is they don't really care necessarily about what we that pay attention really closely to this think or perceive about a certain star at that point. They think that, if they put something behind you that you'll eventually like them. So right now we're using the Vaudevillains as jobber fodder. If we ever do something with them, you're going to care about them. So who cares? I mean, they do this in NXT as well. We'll see guys be enhancement talent for a while, and then when they decide, okay, it's time for you to have time, like Ty Dillinger, we're going to use you a little bit more. It's just sort of the cycle of wrestling at times, especially when you can't always bring jobbers in every time for everything. What did you think of this match, Paul? And I really like the fact that, again, Apollo Crews in an elevated position here against somebody. I thought he was perfect for what they wanted, but are they just teasing it and maybe we just get a fatal four-way or something? Because Baron Corbin got himself involved against The Miz at the end.
Yeah, that's sort of where I thought this might be going, as a fatal four-way, but I think I kind of hope they avoid that and keep it a one-on-one, because Apollo Crews is, like, you look at all three of these guys, and they've all had some buzz around them. Apollo Crews was the hot bring-up for WrestleMania this year. Kalisto's a former U.S. champ. Baron Corbin won the big trophy, the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal at WrestleMania this year in his call-up. And none of these guys have a really established character other than Kalisto doing the fist pump lucha thing and being terrible at promos. And Apollo Crews is the Kelly Kelly gimmick. He points and smiles, and Baron Corbin just looks, bored. So they need to build these guys, and this is a big thing that SmackDown really needs to work on, and especially going forward with Crews being in the limelight of having this feud with The Miz, and somebody who's very good at promos like The Miz can work with and bounce along, and you can learn stuff about Apollo as they go throughout this feud and not spread it out over everybody. Unless they feel confident they can build that way. If they do, then more power to them. But for now, let's stick to the one-on-one thing.
And to me, too, Brandon, you could easily have a Baron Corbin versus Kalisto match out of this, too, instead of building a fatal four-way for no reason. You already have two matches here out of this.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you could definitely do that. One thing I'll say, I mean, the way they did it is perfectly fine. But this kind of goes back to what I was talking about before with the whole face-heel thing, is a match like this in the normal realm of thinking amongst WWE and now their fans, this was way too predictable, where it was, there's no way they're going to put heel on heel, so obviously Apollo's going to win this. You'd like to see a couple of things happen, where maybe you're not 100% sure. But I'd like to see Baron Corbin get something out of this, maybe either a match against Kalisto, where he squashes him and then maybe gets a chance at the Intercontinental title down the line or something along those lines.
I mean, Baron and Kalisto do have that history together, of course, as before Kalisto flubbed his terrible line. So, they could renew that again, or they could just, Kalisto did want revenge, so you can kind of set that up, and maybe you give it a week and you build it up and you bring their history in, and say maybe the week before SummerSlam, you go, okay, here's your match, you tease it, and then you do it at SummerSlam, because I know they need it's a 4-hour show. They need some extra matches.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean that works for me.
Yeah.
We mentioned American Alpha and the Vaudevillains already. I mean, American Alpha, I thought you got pretty much everything that you get of American Alpha here. My only problem is the crowd was not crazy for them. There were people in the front row that you could see that were big time American Alpha fans, but it did not translate into the crowd. And I don't know if it's because, there's not a care about the Vaudevillains like there is about the other tag teams in NXT, where even if you don't like American Alpha, you care about the Revival, or you care about Gargano and Ciampa or whatever. So you care about the fact that they're destroying the Revival at that moment, whereas American Alpha are here, what they're here for, to look good, and I thought they did that, but it kind of sucks when it sort of feels a little bit deflated.
Well, I think this plays into exactly what I was talking about with the Vaudevillains, where they've been used as jobbers for the past month or 2 months or whatever, however long it's been. And so as a result, the effect of a match against them, also the fact that it was a very highly anticipated, highly promoted debut for American Alpha, you knew they were going to win, so that kind of took the air out of it. And also it kind of plays into, I hate to say it, but it plays into WWE's thought process of not everyone watches NXT. Not everyone knows about these guys, and half the crowd are regular WWE fans who don't watch NXT and thus don't really have any care for this match.
I think WWE knows not everybody watches NXT. Not everybody's that kind of fan. The thing here is, I kind of agree with what Larry wrote in his review over at 401, and where maybe you go with a jobber team here and not the Vaudevillains. Maybe because, obviously it's supposed to be a showcase, and I still think they got to showcase very well, and they got to showcase with a team that they worked with before. But instead of maybe this being a little bit more of a competitive match like it kind of was, you have a jobbers come in, it's just make it a squash to at least make American Alpha look dominant. And not to say that they didn't, because they completely out-wrestled the Vaudevillains, and I think the Vaudevillains more than did their share to make them look good. But maybe not dominant enough. Maybe you want something more there. But I think ultimately they came across well. You got everything that they're about. They're just high-energy wrestlers, and that's going to be infectious, and that's going to catch on.
Yeah. Hopefully you are correct, and that does catch on. I think they'll do fine on the main roster, but I'm just hoping that they don't fall into the same trap that the Vaudevillains did, where they're not getting the same type of reactions as they did in NXT, and thus they kind of fall down the proverbial chute and kind of fall into obsolescence. One thing, that was one debut that was highly touted last week, and it happened, but whatever happened to Shelton Benjamin?
They said coming soon. They didn't say next week.
Oh, I thought they said next week.
Nah.
Oh, okay then. I was mistaken then.
I don't know how many dates he has left to fill over there in Japan for Noah.
Yeah, and I mean, there were big rumors that we might see Victoria here on this SmackDown, but we did not see her. So that's something that I think also Victoria might have hurt herself. She kind of put the cat out of the bag on Twitter and WWE might have just kind of been like, well, we're delaying your debut a little bit.
Yeah.
You know how they are about, please do not tell everybody that you're showing up on this show.
Even though I don't understand that since it draws more eyes.
I do too, but I can understand WWE maybe with certain people thinking you don't want to tell them that this person's appearing like they didn't do with Rhino. Maybe they don't always get the grand reaction that you want them to get.
That's
like,
fair.
like Rhino, he get like the biggest reaction ever, but he still showed up and served his purpose. It also could have been Victoria working the internet, and maybe she's not going to do anything. And
like how Finn Balor for like 3 months.
Yeah, exactly. Every time Finn would do something like that, somebody's reporting it. Same thing with, Victoria. She could just be putting that out there to have people report it. But we do know that they're looking for people. We saw Jinder Mahal of all people on Raw. So that being said, Heath Slater again showing up in somebody's office. I did like the fact that Brian's like, "How in the hell did you get in here?" And of course, this was after you had the big segment that happens before this, so it makes sense when Slater's like, "Well, I walked to the front door because there's no security anymore." So Rhino basically comes in and finds out that he gets a contract if he beats Heath Slater. Either one, whoever wins gets a contract next week. I love the fact this is like Heath Slater's gimmick. Basically, whoever wrestles Heath Slater gets a contract and not him.
Yep.
This is just so up Heath Slater's alley.
Well, there are a couple of very funny and kind of off the wall but entertaining things going on right now. That's one of them, and then the other is a whole Golden Truth thing.
Yeah, the Golden Truth thing I'm not a giant fan of, but I think it's relevant and it's fine, I think, for what it is. I'm a big fan of the Heath Slater stuff, though. I think Heath is completely knocking it out of the park. I really look forward to these segments. I really do. Just because they're so fun. And like him getting ran over in D-Bry's office and D-Bry having to tell the guy he was on the phone with that he needs a medic was pretty hilarious. So
they could debut Shelton too, where he just shows up and he's like, "I want my contract now," and Daniel Bryan's like, "All right, but you're gonna wrestle this guy, and if he wins, he gets a contract."
Now the question is, how much longer are they gonna go with this? With all the rumors of, this isn't gonna be for a while, but with all the rumors of SmackDown going 3 hours now, this could be pushed even further to where all the new guys that they need to get to fill up the roster on SmackDown get put over by Heath Slater to get their contracts.
Please let that rumor die.
Yeah. I'm not a giant fan of SmackDown getting 3 hours, but I don't want them to run the Heath Slater thing into the ground either.
As long as Heath Slater's delivering and he's bringing his A game and he's motivated doing this, he can do it for a while. Doesn't bother me. He's so good at these things. They had the Legends thing with him go on for a while, and it was never boring. So for me, as long as the material is good and Heath Slater's doing his part, and whoever it is that they're bringing that week, or if it's a continued thing like with him and Rhino for a little bit, I'm all for it, because for me it's a segment on TV that I'm interested in. We have two things that we still got. We saw it on Raw, and you were very upset about this, Paul, and so I'm sure that you will levy the same amount of vehement anger towards them immediately returning the receipt to Randy Orton, pretty much an angle with him and Fandango. Thank God, because we didn't need Breezango basically being two tag teams basically being blasted out of the water on one show, so that basically Brock could show up and give an F5 to Randy Orton, and then he just leaves after Shane basically makes him with all the security that had been. And I like the fact that they had the security there the whole time, because they knew it was possible that he could show up what do you think about them basically doing it this quick already? Brock returning it for Orton.
Hopefully this is a 1 week thing and we can move along, because you just split up the brands and I'm not a fan of you already breaking this. And like I said on the Raw review, I understand that this was made before the split. I understand all that. It still sucks because I feel like you could have built up a much better feeling around the match, a bigger fight feel, if you have them just talk smack around each other on both shows and the build up. But they didn't, and ultimately it was worth it just to hear Heyman tell Shane, "Hey man, that was pretty cool though, wasn't it?" And then they get tossed in the truck.
I mean, this at least yesterday's one, it was a big shock, especially with what Paul's talking about. No one really expected them, and I agree with Paul for the most part that no one really wanted them to basically nullify the whole brand split very quickly by allowing Orton to get into the building so easily and all of that, and RKOing Lesnar. It was a shock. It was pretty cool to see, but I agree with Paul that doing it this quickly may not be the best thing for the brand split. But this one, it was just, you knew it was coming. You just didn't know when. But everyone, throughout that whole match, you just knew it was all leading up to Brock coming in and F5ing Orton. So, I understand why they did it, but, I mean, like Paul said, I hope this is the end of it.
I don't think it will be, though, guys.
I don't think so.
This is going to be a whole month thing. I'm fine with this. My problem is, with Survivor Series, they're really going to break this because you're going to have the teams, and you're going to have SmackDown versus Raw, and you're going to have all this, and that's my fear, is that the more you have these, co-branded pay-per-views, you're going to have more of this interaction with them, and it's going to start breaking the barriers, and you can't constantly bring out security for every single person.
But
so they're going to have to explain when we get to that point. But here, I'm okay because they did make this match before the brand split, so it's okay. You just have to be able to escalate this more and more each week. Like, they got to have a brawl at some point. They got to have something that's very entertaining. The one with Randy Orton was entertaining because we didn't expect it, and it really did come out of nowhere. The one with Brock, you could see it coming a mile away. They did really good to try to sort of still make it feel like you don't know when it's coming. I think the better thing would have had it happen when Orton's not in a match, so it's not so obvious. But I think they did as well as they could have here.
Yeah, I mean, the only way that I could see this working, and I know probably neither one of you would like it, and I wouldn't really like it all that much either, but as long as they did it the right way, I'd be okay with it. If they just keep on continuing doing this, and it kind of builds up, and it escalates that tension and that aggression between the brands, and then it leads to something at Survivor Series between the two, or bring back bragging rights, or whatever you want to do with it. But as long as you do it to the way where it's basically like an invasion and they're unauthorized and all of that, then I'm okay with it, as long as you don't do it too much. As long as you only do it every once in a while when it's really warranted, then okay, I can handle it. As long as you still keep that animosity between the brands.
I would have been better and much more in this if they had done this further on after the brand split. Right? I think it's a huge mistake right now, because now you're setting a precedent that you can ultimately do this, I guess, whenever you feel like. But I mean, I think it's a bad idea. That's only going to lead to more of this down the road. And like I said, if they waited till Mania to do this, I wouldn't have had such a problem with it. But the fact that they're doing it the first 2 weeks into the brand split, it's a something that's going to stick in my craw for a while.
I agree with you there. If they would have been able to wait, then it would have been better. But I understand what Sean's saying, where they made this match before the brand split. So, I mean, the only thing that they could have done is put them both on the same show, and then trade one of them after SummerSlam or something like that.
Or just not touch each other, but whatever.
Well, that too. But
I mean, that's the thing too, is they've done this before, and you can have them talk, and you can have Heyman. He doesn't have to come out every week either. He can come out 2 of the weeks or something. Mm-hmm. And now I do think that, look, they did this for the fans at that SmackDown show, so that you can understand that SmackDown is not secondary to Raw, and that Brock will show up there, and that those kind of things. You know, there's business reasons why that's being done as well. But, you know, they've done this before with guys not touching each other, and with guys just sort of, we're talking on this show, I'm talking on the other show, or I'm here this week, he's not here this week, sort of thing. It's not unprecedented, like Paul said, and it would have built up the tension a bit more.
Yeah,
if they didn't do that.
Or what they could have done if they really wanted to do this and had them confront each other physically, since they knew about the match before the draft, why not have them both be free agents? And then they can go to their respective shows after their matches.
That's not a bad idea, actually.
Wouldn't have been a terrible idea either, but...
Or you draft in the same brand.
Or you
that too. But, like, if you really wanted to have them split up on the brands, which apparently they did, that would have been the best way to have them still be able to face each other physically on both shows. They could have come on both shows every week and done whatever they wanted to do. Basically, an amplified version of Heath Slater, pretty much.
Well, Brock's not going to be on every show either.
Right.
I don't think
yes.
Does on.
You might get one more appearance out of him on Raw before SummerSlam.
Yeah. Probably.
Well, at least that's something to look forward to, is that at least this won't be going on for the next 3 weeks.
Right.
Yeah. So we do get a break from that. And two, I mean, let's go into this last thing we haven't talked about, which is perhaps maybe the best single segment on this show. John Cena, AJ Styles once again delivering with each other. I mean, these two guys, just when they cut a promo with each other, it's absolute fire. And once again, they do not disappoint. I mean, John Cena is wonderful with these segments where he has to basically say how much he cares about where he is and how much he loves WWE and everything. And it's very, very, he has so much passion in his voice. You totally believe him. You know, you got the fans chanting Cena for him and everything. And AJ, I still, this is one of those things where I think WWE needed to realize before they had somebody cut the joke. Very much like the Justin Bieber thing with Rollins. You got to be careful when you do something like doing the soccer mom thing with AJ. Because now you don't get AJ Styles chance, you get soccer mom chance. And yes, it helps with the story you're trying to tell with AJ where he's a little bit crazy and whatever, but I think it hurts him a little bit. Like, you don't want him to be kind of known as that guy. Him having the dueling chance was much better for him as a character than having that sort of mocking AJ. Yeah. But I thought this really came off well. Both guys looked strong as hell, and AJ got the match that he wanted out of Cena. So, which was weird because you think it'd be the other way around since Cena beat AJ. But what did you think of this, Paul? Just thought it was killer.
I thought it was really good. I think it's like the AJ jab at Nashville was very layered.
Yeah. Trust me, I know.
Yeah, that was... Oh, that's sick burn. I felt like AJ rambled a little at certain parts. He wasn't as clean as he had been in the past in these promos with Cena. It was still very good. Like, he's very unhinged. He's very driven, and it's sort of breaking him a little that he can't get John Cena away from him so he can move on to something else. And that at least comes across very well. So I think he nailed that there. And then, like you said, Cena's masterful at these sort of things where he gets to be genuine, he gets to drop the facade, and he gets to be that wrestling fan that he is, somebody who cares, somebody who's so invested in the product and in the company and everything else. And it's great. It's absolutely great when he gets a chance to cut loose like that.
I liked it a lot. I liked the way both of them played off each other. I also liked the fact that I understood what Cena was saying at this point, but I also liked how Daniel Bryan kind of took a shot at Cena on the post show of saying, you're the golden boy. You were able to go into WWE right away. We couldn't, stuff like that, and kind of bringing that, that conflict between the WWE fans and the more, outside of WWE fans, and bringing that aspect into it. That's one big theme that I saw in this show between the whole thing with Ziggler and then this. There have been a lot of using things that people talk about the industry and about guys behind the scenes that they used to build feuds and build matches even more than they already are just within WWE.
I mean, it's smart. It's them understanding they have two different audiences, and that you can cater to both audiences within words that you say or things that you mention, and using, context, using old stories that they've done before. I mean, it's something we can appreciate, people that have watched things over and over. So it's not out of the realm. I think it's just taken WWE a while to understand that you don't have to go all one way. You can try to sort of give the hardcore fans a little bit and give your casual fans the most of it, because at the end of the day, the hardcore fans are going to watch. But giving them little treats here and there, Paul, is really nice. We appreciate those things.
Absolutely. Anytime you can take a jab from something we know or sort of break that wall a little bit, I always appreciate it more, just because it helps it feel real. It helps it feel genuine. And whether the everyday fan out there knows it's a jab or not doesn't. I mean, ultimately, if they believe it, they'll believe it too. So.
I mean, at the end of the day, the Nashville people are going to get upset because you're calling them crazy anyway. So,
right.
Whether it's a shot at TNA or not, is irrelevant at that point. So,
I also liked how AJ kind of, and playing off of his whole heel persona now, took a big jab at a lot of the Cena fans of saying, hey, life isn't all goody-goody, not everyone gets a trophy, yada, 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 stuff like that. That was something that I definitely think can help build this feud.
Yeah, I mean, we see those guys everybody that goes against Cena kind of cuts the same sort of promos. AJ...
I feel like it was a little more... you could feel it more with a guy like AJ or a guy like Kevin Owens, who, I mean, it's different for us, obviously, but, guys that we know that did have to battle to get to where they are. Different guys use different tactics. I wish back in, I think this was 2013, when Kane faced Cena, and he was trying to bring the anger out of Cena. He used that tactic, so different guys can use different things against Cena.
Yeah, I mean, Paul, that was kind of the first time we'd really seen somebody attack the fans like that. I like the way that AJ kind of went about it, just going after all of Cena's fans like that and just going at him for believing in him.
Yeah, he cut deep by going for the kids first. Pointing. There were plenty of kids, fortunately, in the front rows wearing John Cena crap, and he had no problem pointing them out.
That was good. I mean, so before we get in here to the final rating, just this is the first week they did that Talking Smack show. We've talked about it, in between here. I really like to know like what they did with Dolph, where he really got to talk about what that promo meant for him, what this change in his career means, and all that stuff. I just felt like this is such a good platform for them to really get out things that they don't get to say on the show, be more human a little bit, and American Alpha also shined here too. The joke with New Day was funny. I mean, what do you see them doing this on Raw eventually, or do you think this is a SmackDown exclusive thing because it's sort of to go, okay, well, they're used to sort of having that 3 hours on Raw. They can probably take another 30 minutes or so.
Well, first off, one more thing on the whole Cena thing. What was I gonna say? I forget right now. But when it comes to the post show, I like it a lot. Do you know, Sean, if this is basically like how the draft was, where they're basically just going on there and talking without anything specific told to them, or is it them kind of being given an idea of what they wanted them to say?
I'm sure there is an idea given to them, but it seems like it's much more freeform. Like, what Dolph said, it's really difficult to try to get somebody to write all that out. I mean,
oh no, of course,
it seems like much more bullet pointed than what you get on the show, right, Paul? I mean,
then I like that a lot. I like it. It definitely. I mean, one of the things I've been saying is that it feels a lot more real now with the way they're handling different feuds and all of that. So I like it. I hope they do something with Raw as well. But we'll just have to wait and see if it happens. I think this is a lot more effective than a pre-show. The pre-show is a little I don't know how many people watch it. I'd be much more likely to watch the post-show than the pre-show. The one thing that I would like to see them do, I don't know if they will or not, but I would like to see them maybe show the dark matches.
They used to do that. I don't have a terrible problem with showing the dark matches, although they are supposed to be sort of special things you get for being there live, so maybe depending on what it is. The way they did the post-show today, though, I really enjoyed. You had talk. I thought Dolph was very good in his part. I really enjoyed the American Alpha part because you had Daniel Bryan confirming that they are going to have tag team titles at some point. They just don't want to do... and if you've seen that radio interview where he talks about the women's championship, he says the same thing he pretty much said there. He makes fun of the Universal Championship, and he doesn't want to be like Raw, where they come out the next day and here's a bunch of belts, which is fine with, because I think they're going to wait until that first SmackDown pay-per-view, which is Backlash, to sort of help that pay-per-view get some extra views and stuff like that, and let those titles bring some interest there. So I really enjoyed it. I thought it added a lot, actually, to what you just saw on the show, which is all you can ask for.
Yeah, certainly. So, all right, guys, we got to do this final rating. What did you think SmackDown gets out of 10 for this week?
Go ahead,
Brandon.
I'll give it an 8.
That's exactly where I'm at. I'm at an 8. The big talking segments delivered them. There wasn't a bad match. The only thing I really think took away was the women's booking, and even then, that's up for debate. And that might be my only real big gripe is maybe your presentation of the women. But other than that, everything else I thought was good.
Yeah, I think I couldn't go more than an 8 just because you didn't, other than the Dolph and Bray match, you didn't have anything so stand out in the wrestling department. But the match, the two big talking segments got you what you wanted. You got your two top matches on the SmackDown side for SummerSlam. Already sold. Plus, you get more in the Brock and Randy Orton thing. You know, there's going to be people that are going to feel how they feel about that. And, you know, the women are establishing characters, but eventually you want to see them get in there and be treated the same way as Raw as far as in the wrestling goes. So it'll be interesting because you got to see if they're going to add anybody to that women's division on SmackDown, because right now I think Raw has a couple more than SmackDown in the women's division. So, but yeah, we'll definitely have to see how that goes for next week. But yeah, this will conclude our SmackDown Live review here. So thank you, Brandon, for joining us this week.
Yep.
And you know, we will be back for the Friday morning show, talking NXT, Cruiserweight Classic, TNA, and whatever else has been happening in the world of wrestling. Already talk of perhaps another King of the Ring happening. So that's a little tease that we'll talk about on the Thursday show, as long as whatever else is going on. More G1 as well.
Yep.
So that'll be on the docket after they took a break today. So, all right. Until the Friday show, we will see all you guys later.
Take it easy, folks.
See it.